Mic test, mic test. 1, 2, 3. This is a mic test. 1, 2, 3. 915 mic test. 1, 2, 3, 4. I should be able to hit star.
Good morning, Flora. Can you hear me?
Hi, Megan.
Flora, can you hear me?
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to call this meeting of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to order. Today is Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. The time's 9:30 a.m. With us today are Commissioners Emily Lindley and Bobby Janeka, as well as our General Counsel, Mary Smith, and I'm John Neerman. For those who are making presentations, I'm going to ask you to please wait to begin your presentation until our General Counsel or I have asked you to begin speaking. On items where argument or discussion is allowed, we will inform speakers of their time limits. Registration has now closed, but if you'd like to address the commission on a particular item, please email agenda@tceq.texas.gov with your name, your affiliation, and the item that you'd like to speak to, and we will do our best to accommodate that request. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for being with us today. And Ms. Smith, I'll ask you to please call the first item.
Item number 1 is the consideration of the ALJ's proposal for decision and proposed order concerning the application of Faux Lockhart 450 LLC for Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit number WQ 00161070001. The order of presentation will begin with the applicant, followed by the protestant, then the executive director and the Office of Public Interest Counsel. Each party will have 5 minutes of oral argument time, and the applicant may reserve time for rebuttal as it bears the burden of proof on this application. So we'll begin with the applicant, and I believe we have Derek McDonald here for him.
Good morning, Mr. McDonald. You have a green light there?
Now I do, yeah.
All
Good
right.
morning, Chairman Neerman, Commissioner Lindley, Commissioner Janeka, General Counsel Smith. My name is Derek McDonald with the law firm of Baker Botts, and it's my privilege here to be representing the applicant, PHAU Lockhart 450, in this TPDS permitting matter. PHAU applied for a permit to authorize a domestic wastewater treatment plant for a new Perry Homes development in Caldwell County. The treatment plant will serve a new 450-acre community of schools, homes, and open spaces that's being developed near Lockhart, Texas. We respectfully ask the Commission to approve the application, issue the proposed order, and grant our exceptions. We support the analysis in the proposal for decision that was prepared by Judge Behara, but we did accept several minor issues in the proposed order just to ensure the record was clear. As part of the public participation in this process, we have comments and we made some improvements to the treatment plant that improved both the design and performance of the system, and we want to make sure any final order of the Commission reflects those improvements, and that's why we accepted to the proposed order. We believe the proposed order is fully supported by the record here on the referred issues that were referred by the Commission to SOA. There's uncontroverted evidence of protectiveness of this permit, and there was no any evidence presenting to controvert the record that was admitted at the preliminary hearing here, and the individual actually didn't participate in any meaningful way at all at the hearing. So we believe summary disposition was absolutely appropriate here. We would ask that the Commission again issue the order, grant our exceptions, and approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Colleagues, any questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you, sir. Let's hear next from the protestant. Dana Garrett, are you with us today?
And no one signed in either virtually or registered as being here in person for the protestant.
Okay. Well, we'll give the protestant one more bite at the apple after we've heard the other presentations. So let's turn next to the Executive Director's staff.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, Public Interest Counsel. For the record, I am Michael Parr of the Environmental Law Division, and with me today is Abdur Rahim of the Water Quality Division. The Executive Director agrees with the Administrative Law Judge's conclusions and findings as referenced in his proposal for decision, or PFD, and as subsequently amended by the ALJ's letter acknowledging and adopting the applicant's exceptions to the PFD. The Administrative Law Judge, after considering the pleadings, evidence, and arguments presented, found that there were no genuine issues of material fact to be determined in the SOA proceeding. More specifically, no party tendered any evidence to rebut the prima facie presumption that the draft permit meets all applicable legal and technical requirements, and if issued, would be adequately protective of public and environmental health and safety. Accordingly, as you heard the applicant say, the uncontroverted evidence in the record showed that the draft permit is protective of groundwater and surface water quality and contains adequate provisions to control nuisance odors. The Executive Director recommends adoption of the PFD in order with the exceptions adopted by the ALJ in his letter dated September 25th, 2023, and that the draft permit be issued without changes. Thank you, and we are available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Parr. Colleagues, any questions for Mr. Parr? All right. Ms. Jamison, good morning. What does the
Morning.
Office of Public Interest Counsel think?
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Executive Directors, Attorneys, and Staff. I'm Jennifer Jameson on behalf of OPIC for the record. OPIC agrees with the Executive Director and the ALJ's recommendation to grant the permit as outlined in the ALJ's proposal for decision and as amended by the exceptions letter. OPIC first notes that protestant was present at the preliminary hearing in this matter and that he consented to serve as
Comments or questions? No. All right, Mr. McDonald, I didn't hear a whole lot to rebut. All right, thank you. Colleagues, we referred this case to SOA on two issues, water quality and nuisance odors. And the application, the draft permit, other supporting document has been filed into the administrative record, constituting a prima facie demonstration that this application, this draft permit is protective. As we heard, there was no rebuttal evidence offered, so there's no basis to overturn the ALJ's finding. So I'm ready to adopt the proposed order with the ALJ's revisions. I would propose that we revise, and this is just some clarifying revisions on finding of fact 12 and 2. On 12, I would suggest that we revise that finding to more closely track the language of 30 TAC section 307.5B2. And on finding of fact 2, that we revise that finding ordering provision to adhere to our standard language in addressing potential conflicts. And then we have some numbering issues to clean up on the ordering provision. So again, finding of fact 12, ordering provision 2, and then the numbering of the ordering provisions. And I'm happy to offer a motion on that, colleagues, or hear your comments.
I don't have any comments.
I think I'm very supportive of that.
Okay. In that case, I move that we adopt the ALJ's proposed order as revised by the ALJ's letter dated September 25, 2023, regarding findings of fact numbers 9 and 25, and with the following changes. A, revise finding of fact number 12 to state, quote, a Tier 2 anti-degradation review has preliminarily determined that water quality will not be lowered by more than a de minimis extent in Clear Fork Plum Creek, which has been identified as having high aquatic life use, and that existing uses will be maintained and protected, end quote, in order to be consistent with the rule language in 30 Texas Administrative Code, section 307.5B2. The second change is to revise ordering provision number 2 to state, quote, the commission adopts the executive director's response to public comment in accordance with 30 Texas Administrative Code, section 50.117, to the extent it does not conflict with the commission's order, end quote, in order to provide clarity that the commission's order prevails over any conflicts with the executive director's response to comments, and that we correct the misnumbered ordering provisions. I further move that we issue the executive director's draft permit and that we adopt the executive director's response to comments to the extent it is consistent with the commission's final order.
I second that motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, on item 2, I understand we're going to require an interpreter who's not available until about 10 o'clock. So I'll ask you when you're ready to please call item 3.
Item number 3. Oh, sorry, I'm going to let everybody
Yeah.
have a chance to get up. Jump the gun there. Item number 3 is the consideration of the petition by Miskimen Management 3 LLC and Buffalo Hills Development LLC for the creation of the Brahman Ranch Municipal Utility District of Ellis and Johnson County. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
So, colleagues, as you know, requests for contested cases on MUD petitions are governed by Chapter 55 of our rules, which require the Commission to grant the requests of affected persons and that is a person who has filed a timely hearing request that identifies a personal justiciable interest not common to members of the general public. And there's also a requirement to identify the requester's location relative to the activity that's subject of that is the subject of the application. And in this instance, that would be the proposed district boundaries. We have several requests on this item. Most are from individuals who live outside of and some distance from the proposed district, and some of whom may also have failed to identify an interest that is within the Commission's jurisdiction on MUD petitions. So I agree with the Executive Director and the Office of Public Interest Counsel that we should deny those requests. I also agree with the Executive Director and the Office of Public Interest Counsel that we should grant the requests of the City of Midlothian and Ellis County. The proposed district is located partially within the city's ETJ, and the city has raised relevant concerns based on its statutory authority over public health, safety, water, sewer, and emergency services. The proposed district is also within the county's boundary, and the county has raised similar relevant issues within its authority. That's my take. Commissioner Lindley, how do you see it?
I'm in agreement, and
Likewise.
I can offer a motion then, if we're ready. I would move that we grant the hearing requests of the City of Midlothian and Ellis County, that we deny all remaining hearing requests, that we refer the petition to SOA for a contested case hearing, and that we refer the matter to the Commission's Alternative Dispute Resolution Program to run concurrently with SOA's scheduling process.
I second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call item 4.
Item number 4 is the consideration of the application for the creation of Buffalo Hills Municipal Utility District of Johnson County. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument but may ask questions, and those who have signed in will be noted for the record.
So colleagues, again, we have several individuals requesting a hearing on this petition to create this MUD. And again, all of these individuals live outside of and some distance from the proposed district. In addition, several of them fail to identify an interest that would be within the Commission's jurisdiction on a MUD creation petition. So again, I find myself in agreement with the Executive Director and the Office of Public Interest Counsel that we should deny these hearing requests. So,
I'm in agreement.
okay.
Yeah.
Likewise. I can offer the motion.
Well, let me, and I'm sorry to do this to us because I feel like, especially our last agenda, we had really a seminar on MUD petitions. But let me lay out the case on the merits. And this may be too much detail, but I'm going to err on the side of providing too much detail, and I'll begin by laying out the standard on the merits. The Water Code instructs the Commission to determine whether the proposed MUD is feasible and practicable and is necessary and would be a benefit to the land to be included in the district. That's a quote. In making that determination, the statute further instructs that we consider 3 factors. These are the availability of comparable services from other systems, the reasonableness of projected construction costs, tax rates, and water and sewer rates, and whether the proposed MUD would be a benefit to the land to be included in the district. And relating to this 3rd factor, the statute directs us to determine whether the district, its system, and subsequent development within the district will have an unreasonable effect with respect to 7 sub-factors. And these are land elevation, subsidence, groundwater level within the region, recharge capability of the groundwater source, natural runoff rates and drainage, water quality, and total tax assessments on all land located within the district. In addition, we also must determine whether the petitioner met the procedural and substantive requirements for the formation of a MUD, and those include things such as city consent and other petition content requirements. As to the evidence, we have the petition for the creation as well as the Executive Director's technical memorandum detailing the staff's review of the petition, The memorandum in particular demonstrates that the proposed MUD is indeed feasible and practicable and is necessary and would be a benefit to the land to be included in the district in light of the 3 factors and 7 sub-factors. The memorandum also demonstrates that the petition meets the other applicable requirements and that the criteria for additional road powers have been satisfied. So again, I think we should deny all the requests, grant the petition, approve the road powers, appoint the directors. And I know I had you at the first step. How do we do at the second step? All right, now we're ready for a motion.
I sincerely appreciate that. I recognize this is a extensive and complicated process, but one that we have applied well. Our agencies thought in appropriately analyzing all of those factors to the degree we can and need to in that perspective. Thank you. I'm always for trying to restate what we're doing more plainly to the public, and this is always this is a good example. I would move that we deny all hearing requests, grant the petition for creation of Buffalo Hills Municipal Utility District of Johnson County, that we find that the petition satisfies all applicable statutory and regulatory requirements, and the district is feasible, practicable, and necessary, and would be a benefit to the land to be included in the district, that we approve the district's request for road powers in accordance with Texas Water Code, Section 54.234, that we appoint the following 5 people to serve as temporary directors until permanent directors are elected and qualified: Amy Brock, Chris Barthel, Morgan Potter, Tyler Boyd, and Riley Hurley, and finally, that we adopt the executive director's proposed order.
A second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next item.
Item number 5 is the consideration of the application by South Central Water Company for new TPDES permit number WQ00160600001. The parties have been notified that the commissioners will not take oral argument, but may ask questions, and those who have signed in for the record will be noted for the record.
So colleagues, for TIPD's permit applications, as you know, Chapter 55 of our rules lays out a 2-part analysis for considering requests for contested cases. First, we consider whether the requesters have met the procedural and substantive requirements to be entitled to a contested case. And assuming at least one requester has done so, we then consider which issues are appropriate for referral to SOA for a hearing. Requesters who are affected in a manner different from the general public and who make timely comments articulating personal concerns that are relevant and material to the application and who express those concerns in a timely hearing request are entitled to a hearing. Associations can have standing if, among other factors, they also demonstrate that their purpose, that is the purpose of the association, is germane to the issues raised by the application, and that they identify at least one member who would have standing in their own right. And colleagues, on this item, we have numerous requests. It includes 2 associations and several individuals. Of the individuals, I would grant 3 requests, those of Eric Evans, Steve Hunziker, and Anik Kaur. Hunziker's property is about 2/3 of a mile from the proposed facility, and Evans and Kaur are within a 1/2 mile. The next closest requester who might otherwise meet the procedural and substantive requirements is located roughly 1.5 miles from the proposed facility. And on this application, given the relatively modest discharge of 600,000 gallons per day, the proposed limited concentrations of effluent pollutants, and the type of the proposed treatment units, I would not identify an interest at that distance that's different from an interest common to the general public. Some of the individual requesters also failed to satisfy the other requests, such as filing timely comments. Turning to the associations, I would grant the requests by the Greater Edwards Aquifer Authority and the Bulverde Neighborhood Alliance. Their organizations' purpose include concerns that are germane to the application, and this would include advocating for water quality. And the associations also identify, each of them identify a member who would otherwise have standing to request a hearing in their own right. And these are Asa Dunn and Joyce Lux. The executive director came out a little bit differently on this analysis, recommending denial for the associations, reasoning that Dunn and Lux did not perfect their own individual standing because they failed to submit timely comments. And just to be clear, Ms. Lux never requested a hearing on her own behalf. But none of that really matters because our rule does not require an individual member to perfect a hearing request or even to make a hearing request. It simply requires a demonstration that the member, quote, would otherwise have standing. So Ms. Lux's lack of a request and Dunn's failure to submit timely comments do not defeat the requests of the associations. I think that's a pretty clear reading of the law. But you may have read it differently, so let me pause there and just gather your thoughts. Commissioner Lindley.
So from what I hear, you have the two associate or alliances and the three individuals of who you're recommending for a hearing request.
Right.
I'm fine granting those 5 parties.
Thank you for stating it. I think that I'm with you in the analysis of the two associations. I think the ED's recommendation not to include them, I would agree with you that that nuance of whether they or the individuals requesting the appropriate providing comment or requesting hearing at the appropriate times, I think it does meet the statutory requirement for the associations. It's appropriate for them to proceed as parties.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, there's a difference between would otherwise and simply the word have. Have they demonstrated standing or would otherwise demonstrate? So I appreciate that. Let me turn to the issues. I've identified 6. I would refer the following: whether the draft permit is protective of water quality and existing uses in the receiving waters, whether it's protective of groundwater, whether it's protective of aquatic life and wildlife, whether it's protective of the health of the affected residents, whether the draft permit adequately protects against nuisance odors and otherwise satisfies the site characteristics requirements that are identified in section 309.13. And finally, whether it should be, whether the draft permit should be changed or perhaps even denied based on the policies of need or regionalization. So that's how I would organize the issues.
Came down the same way.
I'm in agreement.
I think we're ready for a motion.
I'll attempt one. I move that we grant the hearing request of the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance, the Bulverde Neighborhood Alliance, Eric Evans, Steve Hunsicker, and Anit Kaur. Deny all remaining hearing requests, that we refer the application to SOA for a contested case hearing on the following 6 issues. Issue 1, whether the draft permit is protective of water quality and the existing uses in the receiving waters under the applicable service water quality standards in 30 TAC Chapter 307. Issue 2, whether draft permit is protective of groundwater in the area, including the Edwards Aquifer Contributing Zone. Issue 3, whether draft permit is protective of aquatic life and terrestrial wildlife, including in the immediate vicinity of the proposed facility and discharge route. Issue 4, whether draft permit is protective of the health of residents in the immediate vicinity of the proposed facility and discharge route. Issue 5, whether draft permit complies with applicable unsuitable site characteristics and the requirements to abate and control nuisance odors as set forth in 30 TAC Section 309.13. And Issue 6, whether the Commission should deny or alter the terms and conditions of the draft permit based on consideration of need under Texas Water Code Section 26.0282 and the general policy to promote regional or area-wide systems under Texas Water Code Section 26.081. That we set a hearing duration of 180 days from the date of the preliminary hearing until the proposal for decision is issued, and that we deny the City of Bulverde's request for reconsideration.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Ms. Smith, when you're ready, please call the next items.
That takes us to our enforcement docket, which are items 6 through 17. The executive director's staff is here to present these matters.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. For the record, my name is Melissa Cordell with the Enforcement Division, and with me today are Michael Parrish, also of the Enforcement Division, and Gitanjali Yadav of the Litigation Division representing the Executive Director. Pending before you are items 6 through 17. The total assessed administrative penalties are $351,505, with $46,172 deferred, $33,394 applied towards supplemental environmental projects, and $271,939 to the general revenue. We respectfully request approval of these items and are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. I have none. Colleagues, any questions? Ms. Smith, has anybody signed in to speak?
No one is signed in.
Mr. Arthur, what say OPIC?
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. For the record, I'm Garrett Arthur, TCEQ Public Interest Counsel. OPIC supports adoption of these enforcement orders as presented by ED staff.
Colleagues, I do too.
I move that we adopt items 6 through 17 as recommended today by the Executive Director.
I second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Do we have an interpreter on the line yet?
We do, and the respondent. So if you're ready, we can
Great.
go back to item 2.
Let's do that. And let's do this. Before you call the item, I think that caption should be translated as well, and I wanted to give our interpreter an opportunity to give us any instructions or admonishments to help make the interpreter's job easier and get us a cleaner record. So is our interpreter with us today?
Yes, good morning,
Good-
Mr. Smith. Flor Masi with Global Speak Translations.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us today. Do you have any advice or instructions for us to help make this run a little bit more smoothly? I say us, anyone who's presenting today.
Yes, Mr. Smith. Flor Masi with Global Speak Translations. We will be interpreting Hindi into English in this session.
Okay,
And in order for us to accomplish this, we will need short sentences. We will listen into the Hindi interpreter first, and then we will render the interpretation in English.
जी नमस्ते, मैं आपकी हिंदी अनुवादक हूँ। आपको बता दिया जाए कि जो आज आप बातचीत अगर हिंदी में करना चाहेंगे तो आप हिंदी में बात कर सकते हैं। थोड़े थोड़े शब्दों में बोलिएगा। आप जब रुकेंगे तो मैं उसका अनुवाद इंग्लिश में करके सबको बताऊंगी। फिर आप अपनी बात जारी रख सकते हैं।
At any time, if anybody has a question or we need to repeat the message, please let us know.
अगर इसमें आपको कोई प्रश्न हो या आप चाहें कि हम आपका संदेश दोबारा से दोहराकर बताएं, हमें बता दीजिएगा।
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith.
धन्यवाद सबका।
All right, thank you. And just to be clear, will you be translating both ways from English into Hindi as well as Hindi into English?
Correct.
Okay. And just to repeat, for anybody presenting, we're going to try to speak in short sentences.
तो जो भी बातचीत कही जाएगी, जब कोई अंग्रेजी में बात करेगा तो उसका अनुवाद हिंदी में होगा, जब कोई हिंदी में बोलेगा तो उसका अनुवाद अंग्रेजी में होगा, बस थोड़े-थोड़े वाक्यों में बोला जाए।
And if we have any questions or need something repeated, simply ask.
और अगर आपने कोई प्रश्न पूछना हो, कोई बात दोहरानी हो, तो पूछ लीजिएगा.
Ms. Smith?
Item 2 is the consideration of the administrative law judge's proposal for decision and proposed order.
जो दूसरे नंबर की आइटम है उसमें ये है कि जो प्रस्ताव रखा गया है ऑर्डर करने के लिए और जो बाकी प्रस्ताव है उनके ऊपर गौर किया जाएगा.
Regarding an enforcement action against ASKC Stores Incorporated doing business as Amigo Mart.
तो वो जो लागू करने वाला हुक्मनामा है ASKC Stores Inc. जो कि अमीगो मार्ट के नाम से काम कर रहे हैं उनके बारे में है.
The order of presentation will be
जो प्रस्तुति का हुक्म है
Executive Director, followed by the respondent, and then the Office of Public Interest Counsel.
तो उसमें पहले डायरेक्टर बात करेंगे और उसके बाद जो उत्तरदायी हैं वो बात करेंगे और उसके बाद जो सार्वजनिक विभाग के काउंसिल हैं वो बात करेंगे.
Each party will have 10 minutes.
हर किसी को 10 मिनट का समय दिया जाएगा.
The Executive Director may save time for rebuttal.
और जो बाकी का समय हो सकता है कि जो ऊपर के डायरेक्टर हैं वो समय रख सकते हैं उत्तर बाद में देने के लिए भी.
We will begin with the Executive Director.
अब उन्हीं के साथ डायरेक्टर साहब के साथ ही हम शुरुआत करेंगे.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Office of Public Interest Counsel.
तो वो नमस्कार बोलते हैं सबको जो लोग प्रस्तुत हुए हैं जिनमें के काउंसिल के सलाहकार मौजूद हैं, आप सार्वजनिक विभाग के लोग मौजूद हैं, उन सबको.
I am Benjamin Pence, an attorney with the Litigation Division, here on behalf of the Executive Director.
इनका नाम बेंजामिन पेंस है. ये वकील हैं, ये जो कि बड़े डायरेक्टर हैं उनकी तरफ से आए हैं.
Before you is a proposal for decision and proposed order issued by a SOA Administrative Law Judge.
तो आपके सामने फैसला करने के लिए है जो प्रस्ताव आया है जज की तरफ से.
To resolve an enforcement action about an underground storage tank system.
जो कि जमीन के नीचे किसी चीज को संभालने का टैंक है उसको कैसे लागू किया जाए उसके बारे में फैसले के बारे में बात करेंगे.
The ED recommends adoption of the proposed order.
ED चाहती हैं कि जो पहले हुक्मनामा जारी हुआ है उसको स्वीकार किया जाए.
With the exceptions that were agreed to by the ALJ.
उसमें बस यही शर्त है कि ALJ के लोग हैं उसको भी स्वीकृति दे सकें.
The enforcement action involves 3 violations by respondent ASKC stores.
तो जो ASKC स्टोर वालों ने 3 गलतियां की थी उनके जो उत्तर हैं वो उसमें शामिल हैं.
1. Failure to monitor for USTs for releases in a manner that will detect a release.
उसमें जो पहली बात है कि उन्होंने जो कि हवा वहां से लीक होती है और उसके जो UST के अंतर्गत उन्होंने ध्यान करना था उसको ध्यान करने में वो असफल रहे हैं.
At a frequency of at least once every 30 days.
जो कि 30 दिनों में कम से कम एक बार करना होता था.
2. Failure to sufficiently conduct reconciliation of a detailed inventory control records.
इसके अलावा उनकी जो सामग्री है और उसका जो रिकॉर्ड है उसको सही तरीके से पूरे विस्तार के साथ उन्होंने दिखाना था वो दिखाने में असफल रहे हैं.
At least once every 30 days.
और ये भी 30 दिनों में कम से कम एक बार करना था.
And 3. Failure to provide corrosion protection.
और तीसरी बात है कि उसकी जो सुरक्षा की बातें सुरक्षा का जो चीजें दिखानी थी उसको दिखाने में वो असफल रहे हैं.
After an evidentiary hearing on June 22nd, 2023.
जब 22 जून 2023 को सबूतों के आधार पर सुनवाई हुई थी,
The ALJ found that respondent committed the alleged violations
तो ALJ ने पता लगाया कि जो उत्तरदायी हैं उन्होंने वाकई ही ये गलतियां की हैं
and that the $14,751 penalty amount recommended by the ED is appropriate.
और जो ईडी ने उनके ऊपर जो लगाया था पैसे कि वो दंड भरें $14,751 का, वो सही है।
No corrective actions are recommended because respondent is no longer the owner or operator of this UST system.
क्योंकि जो के उत्तरदायी जो थे वो यूएसटी सिस्टम के अब मालिक नहीं हैं, तो उनको कोई सुधार करने की उससे अपेक्षा नहीं की जाती।
The ED filed exceptions to the proposed order to address minor issues.
और ईडी ने कागज जमा करवाए थे कि जो छोटे-मोटे उसमें समस्याएं हैं उससे निपटने के लिए प्रस्ताव दिए थे।
And the ALJ agreed with some of the ED's non-substantive recommendations.
और ईडी के जो कुछ सुझाव थे जो कि बहुत बड़े नहीं थे, उनसे एएलजे सहमत हैं।
I am here to answer any questions you may have and reserve the remainder of my time for rebuttal if necessary.
तो मैं यहाँ पर हूँ अगर आपको कोई भी प्रश्न पूछना हो उसका उत्तर देने के लिए, और मैं अपना बाकी समय संभाल के रखना चाहता हूँ ताकि अंत में मुझे कोई जवाब देना हुआ तो वो मैं दे सकूँ।
Thank you, sir. I see no comments or questions from the commissioners, so I will ask the respondent represented by Mr. Modi to go ahead and make his comments.
तो मैं देख रहा हूँ कि किसी की तरफ से कोई टिप्पणी नहीं है, प्रश्न नहीं है कमिश्नर की तरफ से, तो मैं चाहूंगा कि मोदी जी जो हैं उत्तरदाताओं के लिए वो अपनी जो सुझाव या अपनी बात कह सकते हैं।
मेरा कहने का है कि मेरे को ये पेनल्टी हुई है $14,751, क्योंकि जिस टाइम में एग्जामिनेशन हुआ था उसके पहले हमारे पास गैस भी नहीं था, तो मैंने वो पहले भी कह चुका हूँ कि इतना स्टोर इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं था जो मेरा बिजनेस था।
I want to talk about the penalty of $14,751. When they did the inspection, I have mentioned this before also, that when they did the inspection, I did not have any gas and the store was not that strong. कहिए।
और मैं पेनल्टी देने के लिए रेडी हूँ, लेकिन ये मेरे लिए बहुत बड़ा अमाउंट है, क्योंकि आफ्टर वो स्टोर जो बिजनेस था वो तो मैंने बंद कर दिया क्योंकि मेरे पास उसको रन करने के लिए ही पैसे नहीं थे।
एक मिनट। I am willing to pay the penalty, but this particular amount is way too big for me. I already closed down the business because I did not have any money to run it.
तो मैं ये पेनल्टी दे सकता हूँ अगर मेरे को थोड़ा डिडक्ट करके देवे, एटलीस्ट व्हाटएवर लाइक जितना भी कम कर सकते हैं, और मेरे को मंथली पेमेंट में करके देवे फाइनेंस, तो मैं एवरी मंथ में पे कर सकता हूँ, लाइक 300 to 350 तक मैं पे कर सकता हूँ।
जी, I can't pay the penalty, but if you could reduce the amount as much as you can, and also if you could finance, like make monthly payment of between 300 to 350, that's what I'm able to pay.
बस यही मैं कहना चाहता हूँ क्योंकि मैं ऑलरेडी अभी बहुत ब्रोक हो चुका हूँ, मेरे पास इतने पैसे भी नहीं है, खाली इतना हेल्प हो जावे तो मैं मंथ टू मंथ में पे कर सकता हूँ।
That's all I want to say because I'm so broke now. I do not have any money. If you could give me this much help, then I can make month to month payments.
और ये पेमेंट अगर मेरे को एटलीस्ट 2 महीने बाद चालू करे, लाइक मेरी मदर इंडिया में है जो बहुत बीमार रहती है और उनको देखने के लिए मेरे को जाना पड़ता है, तो अगर वो मैं 2 महीने में जाने वाला हूँ, दिसंबर और जनवरी, अगर फरवरी से अगर वो स्टार्ट करे तो बेहतर रहेगा।
And also this payment, if you could start after 2 months, because my mother is in India and she's very sick, so I frequently go to visit her to check on her. So I will be gone in December and January. So if we could start in February, that will be much better for me.
यही कहना चाहता हूँ।
That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Modi.
मोदी जी बहुत धन्यवाद।
I'm sorry to hear about your mother, and we all wish her a speedy recovery.
आपकी माता जी के बारे में सुनकर हमें बहुत खेद है। आशा है कि वो बहुत जल्द ही सेहतमंद हो जाएंगी।
Colleagues, do you have any questions?
वो अपने साथियों से पूछते हैं अगर किसी ने कोई प्रश्न पूछना है तो।
I see no questions or comments, so I'm going to ask the Office of Public Interest Counsel to speak next.
तो किसी की तरफ से कोई प्रश्न या कोई टिप्पणी नहीं है, तो जो पब्लिक के विभाग के वकील हैं उनसे कहूंगा कि वो बात कर सकेंगे।
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and the Executive Director's attorney and staff.
वो सब जो लोग मौजूद हैं उनको सब नमस्कार करती हैं। जो वकील मौजूद हैं, एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर मौजूद हैं और जो सार्वजनिक विभाग के लोग मौजूद हैं उनको नमस्कार कहती हैं।
I'm Pranjal Mehta for the Office of Public Interest Counsel.
ये प्रांजल मेहता है सार्वजनिक जो इंटरेस्ट है उनके दफ्तर से।
OPIC supports the Administrative Law Judge's proposal for decision.
तो मैंने देखा है कि जो आपने प्रस्ताव रखा है उसको फैसला करने के लिए।
OPIC finds that the ED established by a preponderance of the evidence
तो ओपिक पता लगाती है कि जो ईडी ने जुर्माना रखा है अपने पूरे सबूतों के आधार पर
that the respondent committed the alleged violations
तो जो उत्तरदायी हैं उनके ऊपर जो आरोप लगे हैं उन्होंने वाकई ही वो किए हैं
and the proposed penalty
और जो उनके ऊपर दंड लगा है
$14,751
$14,751 का
is appropriate.
वो बिल्कुल ठीक है।
The record shows that
रिकॉर्ड से हमें पता चलता है
the respondent does not challenge the violation
जो उत्तरदायी के ऊपर जो आरोप लगे हैं वो उनको चैलेंज नहीं कर रहे हैं
or the penalty
और जो दंड लगा है उसको भी
but requests that
मगर ये याचना करते हैं कि
he be able to pay off the penalty
कि वो जो उनके ऊपर दंड लगा है उसको भर सकें
little by little.
थोड़ा थोड़ा करके।
Therefore, the Commission may wish to consider
इसलिए जो कमीशन है वो इस बात के ऊपर गौर कर सकते हैं
whether a payment plan should be offered to respondent.
कि उनको ऐसे जो किस्तें लगाकर पैसे अदा करने का उनको प्रस्ताव दे सकते हैं या नहीं।
OPIC further agrees
आपक इस बात के लिए भी राजी है
with the ALJ's recommendation
ALJ के सुझाव के साथ
regarding the exceptions raised by the ED.
जो ईडी ने प्रस्ताव दिए हैं उनके बारे में।
For these reasons,
इन्हीं कारणों से
OPIC recommends adoption of the ALJ's proposal for decision
ओपेक सुझाव देती है कि जो एएलजी का सुझाव था उसको स्वीकार किया जाए निर्णय लेते समय
as amended by the ALJ's exception letter.
जो एएलजे ने चिट्ठी में भेजा था बदलाव करके उसके में जो सुझाव दिया है उसके मुताबिक।
Thank you and I'm happy to answer any questions.
बहुत धन्यवाद और मुझे खुशी होगी आपके प्रश्नों के उत्तर देकर।
Thank you, Ms. Mehta. I see no questions or comments.
बहुत धन्यवाद श्रीमती मेहता। अब मैं देख रहा हूँ कि किसी ने कोई प्रश्न नहीं पूछा और ना ही कोई टिप्पणी की है।
Mr. Pence, is there anything you'd like to say in rebuttal?
No, Chairman. Thank you.
साहब से पूछा है था कि उन्होंने कोई बात कहनी हो उनके उत्तर में, वो कहते हैं कि नहीं।
And just to be clear, Mr. Pence answered in the negative. He said no.
और पेंस साहब ने कहा था उन्होंने कुछ नहीं कहना।
Colleagues, I see no basis for altering the ALJ's proposed order other than some minor changes.
तो मैं देख रहा हूं कि जो एएलजे ने प्रस्ताव रखा है कि हम क्या निर्णय लें, उसमें थोड़े बहुत त्रुटियों के अलावा हमें कुछ बहुत बदलाव की जरूरत नहीं है.
While I have some sympathy for Mr. Modi's position, he had an opportunity to provide evidence of financial inability to pay.
मोदी जी की जो स्थिति है, मुझे उसके साथ बहुत हमदर्दी है, मगर उन्होंने कुछ मौका नहीं लिया अपनी तरफ से कुछ सबूत पेश करने का कि उनको समस्या है आर्थिक तौर पर भरपाई करने में.
He did not provide such evidence.
उन्होंने कोई ऐसे सबूत नहीं पेश किए.
So I'm not inclined to offer a payment plan.
इस कारण मैं उनको किस्तें लगाने में या पेमेंट लगाने में नहीं सोच रहा हूं उसके बारे में.
But I am very interested, colleagues, in your thoughts on this matter.
मगर आप मेरे सहयोगी जो लोग मेरे साथ काम करते हैं उनके जो विचार हैं मैं उनको जानना चाहूंगा.
I will add that I have a few minor changes to the proposed order, which I can offer in a motion.
मैं ये भी कह दूं कि जो हमें प्रस्ताव के तौर पर जो निर्णय मिला था उसमें थोड़े से मैं बदलाव करना चाहूंगा, उसके लिए मैं मोशन दर्ज करवा सकता हूं.
But colleagues, let me first get your thoughts, beginning with you, Commissioner Lindley.
तो सहयोगियों, पहले मैं आपके विचार जान लूं. कमिश्नर लिंडजी से शुरू करेंगे.
I'm in agreement with everything you're proposing.
जो सभा प्रस्ताव रख रहे हैं मैं उसके साथ राजी हूं.
I sympathize with the respondent and his situation.
जो उत्तर देने वाले हैं उनकी जो स्थिति है और जो उन्होंने कहा है, मुझे उनके साथ हमदर्दी है.
However, I'm hesitant to offer the payment plan because of a potential precedence it might set. And I'll stop there.
तो मगर मैं उनको किस्तें लगाने के लिए राजी नहीं हूं क्योंकि ये फिर आगे आने वालों के लिए आम बात बन जाएगी.
Commissioner Janeka.
कमिश्नर जनेका से पूछा जाता है.
I share your thoughts as well, Chairman Neerman.
मैं भी चेयरमैन के जो विचार हैं उनके साथ राजी हूं.
I don't believe it would conflict with past precedent for us to consider and offer a payment plan at this point in our process.
मुझे नहीं लगता कि अभी हम यहाँ पर कोई किस्त लगाएंगे तो जो पहले से हमने निर्णय किए हैं उनके साथ कोई उसमें बाधा पैदा होगी.
So with that understanding, I'm comfortable proceeding with a approximately 36-month payment plan.
तो ऐसा कहने पर मैं अगर 36 महीने की इनको किस्तें लगा दी जाएं तो मुझे ठीक रहेगा मेरे लिए.
Which I believe is the extent of the length of time we've offered others in the past.
क्योंकि ऐसी ही चीजें हमने पहले भी लोगों को ऐसे प्रस्ताव दे चुके हैं.
I'm open to consider Mr. Modi's other requests as to delaying the start of the payment schedule. However, I don't know past precedent for our agency and share Commissioner Lindley's concerns.
तो जो मोदी जी ने कहा है कि थोड़ी देर के बाद ये किस्तें चालू करें, मैं उसको भी सोचने पे राजी हूं, मगर अगर पहले ऐसा हमने कुछ नहीं किया, कभी किसी को ऐसी रियायत नहीं दी, तो फिर मुझे उसके बारे में चिंता होगी जैसा कि लिंडसी जी ने कहा था उस पहले.
And finally, I regret to find that the amount that Mr. Modi is requesting of $300 to $350 to fall below what would be consistent with our agency's past precedent.
और मुझे खेद है कि जो प्रस्ताव मोदी जी रख रहे हैं कि 300 से लेकर 350 तक का वो सही नहीं होगा क्योंकि पहले हमारी जो एजेंसी ने लगाए थे उसमें से ऐसा कभी इतना कम नहीं था.
Thank you, Commissioner.
धन्यवाद कमिश्नर साहब।
It sounds like we have a variety of views on the dais.
लगता है कि हमारे सामने विभिन्न प्रकार के विचार हैं।
Because the respondent never really challenged the violations, nor the penalty calculation, nor presented proof of inability to pay, I am still disinclined to offer a payment plan.
क्योंकि जो उत्तरदायी हैं उनके खिलाफ जो दोष लगे हैं उन्होंने उनका विरोध नहीं किया और जो उनके खिलाफ दंड लगाया है, जुर्माना लगाया है, वो कैसे उन्होंने हिसाब लगाया उसके बारे में कोई चुनौती नहीं दी और ना ही कोई सबूत पेश किया है कि वो ऐसे पैसे भर नहीं सकते। मैं राजी नहीं होता हूं उनको पेमेंट प्लान या किस्तें लगाने के लिए।
Commissioner Lindley?
I'm in agreement. For me, I need more proof of the inability to pay. I need that in the record.
तो कमिश्नर लिंडली भी उनके साथ राजी होती हैं, मैं भी राजी होती हूँ। मुझे और कुछ प्रूफ सबूत चाहिए कि ये पैसों की भरपाई नहीं कर पाते ताकि हम रिकॉर्ड में ऐसे कागज जमा करवा सकें।
And so because of it just coming for us today, it's not really in the record for me. And so I'm in agreement with you, Chairman.
क्योंकि बस आज ही आकर उन्होंने बात की है, कुछ रिकॉर्ड में ऐसे कागज नहीं है, इसलिए चेयरमैन साहब मैं आपके साथ राजी हूँ।
Commissioner Janeka, any additional thoughts?
Thank you.
तो कमिश्नर जनेका से पूछा जाता है, उन्होंने कोई उसके बारे में कुछ और विचार देना है?
I'm comfortable voting with the two of y'all on this matter today, but we'll simply ask how much of our agency's information on how to request and provide the financial inability to pay to the record is in Hindi.
तो मैं आप दोनों के साथ आपकी जो वोट है उसके साथ राजी हो सकता हूँ, मगर मैं जानना चाहता हूँ कि हमारी एजेंसी की जो जानकारी है कि कैसे ये जो लोग अपने सबूत पेश कर सकते हैं उसमें से कितनी जानकारी हिंदी में लोगों को प्रदान की जाती है।
Commissioner Janeka, is that a question you would like to pose to staff now or take the question offline?
तो कमिश्नर जनेका से पूछा जाता है कि वो जो उनका प्रश्न है अभी ही आप स्टाफ के सामने रखेंगे या बाद में जब ऑफलाइन हो जाएंगे तब बात करेंगे?
Frankly, fearing what I suspect to be the answer there, I will discuss it offline with staff. Thank you.
तो मेरे विचार से मुझे जब हम लोग बंद कर देंगे, उसको समाप्त कर देंगे, उसके बाद मैं अपने स्टाफ से इसके बारे में बात कर सकूंगा।
Let me invite, if there is a comment, first the executive director and then OPIC to discuss the extent to which Mr. Modi or the respondent
तो मैं आमंत्रित करता हूं पहले जो हमारे बड़े डायरेक्टर हैं उनको और ओपेक को कि जो मोदी साहब हैं जो उत्तरदायी हैं यहाँ पर
was advised of the opportunity to present evidence on financial inability to pay.
कि उनको समझाया गया था, उनको मौका दिया गया था कि उनकी जो आर्थिक समस्या है भरपाई करने में उसमें जो कठिनाई है उसका सबूत पेश करने के लिए।
The ED first sent a letter to respondent on January 14th, 2022.
ईडी ने सबसे पहले एक चिट्ठी भेजी थी आपको 14 जनवरी 2022 को
requesting that respondent provide potentially relevant financial records to support its claim.
कि जो उत्तरदायी हैं वो इनके साथ जुड़े हुए जो उनके आर्थिक रिकॉर्ड हैं वो पेश करें।
The ED then sent an updated letter on September 23rd, 2022.
ईडी ने फिर दोबारा से एक नई चिट्ठी उनको भिजवाई 23 सितंबर 2022 को
And the ED also sent multiple follow-up communications requesting the documents.
उसके बाद भी कई बार ईडी ने उनके साथ बातचीत करने की कोशिश की ताकि वो कागज वो भेज सकें
And asked for them through discovery.
और उनके लिए सबूत भी मांगे उन्होंने कानूनी कागजों के साथ.
Respondent failed to provide the requested records.
जो उत्तरदायी हैं उनसे जो रिकॉर्ड मांगे गए थे उन्होंने नहीं दिए हमको,
thereby failing to meet its burden to support its claim.
इस कारण जो उनके ऊपर जिम्मेदारी थी कि जो वो दावा करते हैं उसके सहयोग में कुछ कागज भेजें, वो उसमें असफल हुए.
And the ALJ found that respondent had waived its claim.
तो ALJ ने ये पता लगाया कि जो इनका दावा था उत्तरदायी का वो छोड़ चुके हैं.
And the ED asserts that this is the correct and necessary result under TCEQ's rules governing such claims.
और ED पता लगाती है जो TCEQ के नियम और उनके कानून हैं उनके मुताबिक ये जो हमारा निर्णय है बिल्कुल ठीक है.
Thank you, Chairman.
धन्यवाद चेयरमैन साहब.
Thank you. Ms. Mehta, do you have anything to add?
अब कुमारी मेहता से पूछा जाता है उन्होंने कोई और बात कहनी हो.
Sure, Chairman. OPIC agrees that there were multiple opportunities.
जी चेयरमैन साहब, ओपेक इस बात से राजी है कि कई बार मौके आए थे
For the respondent to produce the documents.
उत्तरदायी को दिए गए थे कि वो कागज प्रस्तुत कर सकें.
To demonstrate his financial inability to pay.
वो अपनी जो आर्थिक कठिनाई है भरपाई करने के लिए उसको दिखाने के लिए.
But respondent failed.
मगर उत्तरदायी उसमें असफल रहे.
To provide any documents in support.
इसके सहयोग में कोई भी कागजात या सबूत पेश करने के लिए.
Therefore, OPIC finds that.
इसलिए ओपेक इस बात का पता लगाता है.
Under the rules.
जो नियम है उसके अधीन.
Respondent was given the opportunity.
उत्तरदायी को मौके प्रदान किए गए थे.
Thank you.
धन्यवाद.
Thank you, Ms. Mehta.
धन्यवाद कुमारी मेहता.
Colleagues, I suggest that I will read a motion now, if it's all right with you.
सहयोग मेरा प्रस्ताव ये है कि मैं अपनी मोशन अभी पढ़ के बता दूं अगर आप इस पे राजी होते हैं.
Seeing no objections, I move the following.
किसी को कोई आपत्ति नहीं है ये देखकर मैं ये प्रस्ताव रखता हूं.
That we adopt the administrative law judge's proposed order with the following changes.
कि जो पहले जो जज ने कानून के जज ने हमें प्रस्ताव भेजा है अपने हुक्म का उसको हम स्वीकार करें. उसमें बस यही सुधार करें.
1. Amend the respondent's name to reflect the capitalization as it appears in the registration.
पहली बात ये कि जो उत्तरदायी हैं उनके नाम को सुधार करके जो बड़ा लिखा हुआ है रजिस्ट्रेशन में जैसे लिख रखा है उसके साथ मिलता हुआ बदल दें उसको.
Filed with the Secretary of State as recommended by the Executive Director in her exceptions.
जो उसके कागज उन्होंने जमा करवाए थे इस प्रांत की सेक्रेटरी के साथ जैसा कि डायरेक्टर ने बताया था अपने सुझाव में वो लिख रखा है.
2. Remove the word preliminary from finding of fact numbers 12 and 13.
और दूसरा प्रस्ताव ये है कि जो कि तथ्य पता लगाए गए थे नंबर 12 से लेकर 13 तक उनके आगे जो शब्द लिखा हुआ है कि ये पहले के हैं उनको हटा दिया जाए.
As recommended by the Executive Director and the ALJ.
और उसका प्रस्ताव भी दिया था जो बड़े डायरेक्टर हैं उन्होंने भी और ALJ ने भी.
3. Replace, quote, the UST at the facility is not, end quote.
और जो USD लिख रखा था उसको हटा दिया जाए जो प्रस्ताव में है,
with, quote, the USTs at the facility are not, end quote.
और उसकी शब्दावली में बदलाव कर दिया जाए कि एक से ज्यादा जो यूएसटी है वो है या नहीं, उसको ऐसे लिखा जाए.
In conclusion of law number 4 as recommended by the executive director and the administrative law judge.
और उसको ऐसे ये सुधार कर दिया जाए नंबर 4 के साथ जो प्रस्ताव दिए थे बड़े डायरेक्टर ने और साथ के जो दफ्तरी कानून के जज थे उन्होंने दिए.
4. To illustrate one of the ways in which the respondent failed to use an approved method of leak detection,
और चौथा नंबर ये है कि ये दिखाने के लिए कि जिस तरीके से ये जो उत्तरदायी हैं उन्होंने जो लीक हो रही थी उसको बंद करने के में असफल रहे हैं,
as recommended by the executive director in her exceptions, included by reference to the violation of 30 TAC section 334.50B1A.
और उसमें जो बड़े डायरेक्टर हैं उन्होंने इसके ये बात का जिक्र किया था कि ये उल्लंघना हुई है TAC के 30वें कानून की और जिसकी धारा है 334.50B1A.
And tried by consent during the hearing,
और उसके ऊपर बात की गई थी जब कानूनी कार्रवाई हुई थी उस समय दरमियान.
add new conclusion of law number 7A to state,
और उसमें जो नया वाला कानून है नंबर 7A वो प्रांत के साथ जोड़ा जाए.
quote, the UST system owner or operator must take appropriate steps.
जिसमें लिखा हुआ है कि जो यूएसटी के मालिक हैं या चलाने वाले हैं वो सही कदम उठाएं
to assure that they receive an analysis report from the entity,
इस बात की तसल्ली करने के लिए कि उनको संस्था से सही किस्म की जांच करवाने की रिपोर्ट प्राप्त हो,
which actually performs the SIR analysis for the 30-day period,
जिसमें SIR का 3 दिनों के वक्फे का जो विश्लेषण था वो शामिल होता है,
in no more than 15 calendar days following the last day,
जो के अंत दिन के बाद कैलेंडर के हिसाब से 15 दिनों के बीच होना चाहिए,
of the 30-day period for which the analysis is performed.
30 दिनों के अंतरकाल के बीच में जिसमें कि विश्लेषण किया गया था.
I'll reference the citation.
जो उनका चलान हुआ था मैं उसका जिक्र करूंगा.
30 Texas Administrative Code,
जो टेक्सास का दफ्तरी कोड है 30
section 334.50 D9A3.
उसका भाग 334.50 D9A3
End quote.
जिसमें लिखा है
5. To more accurately reflect the record evidence,
नंबर 5 ये है कि सही तरीके से रिकॉर्ड दिखाने के लिए
replace the word provided with the word performed.
जो शब्द लिखा गया था कि ये दिया गया, उसको हटाकर नया शब्द लिखा जाए कि ये किया गया था.
In findings of fact 6 and 7.
6 और 7 तथ्यों को पता लगाने में.
And finally, 6, to accurately reflect the date that the chief clerk mailed notice of the hearing.
और नंबर 6 में ये होगा कि सही तरीके से तिथि दिखाने के लिए जिस तिथि को क्लर्क ने इनको नोटिस जो सुनवाई के थे वो डाक से भेजे थे.
I move that we replace August 31, 2022 with August 24, 2022.
मैं प्रस्ताव रखूंगा कि जो पहले से हमने तिथि लिख रखी है 31 अगस्त 2022 की, उसको हटाकर 24 अगस्त 2022 लिखा जाए.
In finding of fact 15.
तथ्य 15 की पड़ताल के पता लगाने के बारे में.
Colleagues, that is my motion.
सहयोगियों, यही मेरा प्रस्ताव है.
All those in favor say aye.
Well, I'll second it, I guess.
Oh, sorry.
But I will vote as well.
तो जो मेरे साथ राजी हैं वो आय बोल सकते हैं और दूसरी कह रही हैं कि वो उनका सहयोग देती हैं और उनको आय कहती हैं उसके पक्ष में.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 जो प्रस्ताव रखा जा चुका है उसका सहयोग दिया जा चुका है. जो उसके हक में वोट देना चाहते हैं वो आय बोल सकते हैं और तीनों ने आय बोला है.
The motion carries. We extend our thanks to our interpreter.
मोशन आगे बढ़ाई जाती है और हम अपने जो हमारे अनुवादक थे उनका धन्यवाद करते हैं.
Ms. Smith, please call the next item.
Item 18, and we'll just note, was continued to the November 29th agenda. So that takes us to items 19 through 22, and we'll give the executive director's staff a moment to get up here to the table. Items 19 through 22 are the quadrennial rule reviews for chapters 101, 113, 291, and 304 of the Title 30 of the Texas Administrative Code. And the executive director's staff is here to present these matters.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, General Counsel, and Public Interest Counsel. On behalf of the Executive Director, I am Gwen Rico with the General Law Division. Pending before you are items 19 through 22, the adopted rule reviews of 30 Texas Administrative Code Chapter 101, General Air Quality Rules, Chapter 113, Standards of Performance for Hazardous Air Pollutants and for Designated Facilities and Pollutants, Chapter 291, Utility Regulations, and Chapter 304, Water Master Operations. As required by Texas Government Code Section 2001.039, Executive Director staff conducted a rule review of these chapters to determine if the need for the rules within these chapters continue to exist. The proposed notices for these reviews were published in the June 2nd, 2023 issue of the Texas Register with 30-day comment periods. One comment was received on each of the reviews for chapters 101, 113, and 304. These comments were reviewed and determined to be outside the statutory and regulatory purpose of the rule review and will be considered when the rules are next substantively changed. No comments were received for the rule review of Chapter 291. Based on the review of these chapters, the Executive Director has determined that the reasons for the rules in Chapters 101, 113, 291, and 304 continue to exist, and changes to the rules identified as part of this review process will be addressed as a separate rulemaking action in accordance with Texas Administrative Procedure Act. In conclusion, we respectfully recommend an approval of the adoption of the rule reviews of Chapters 101, 113, 291, and 304. Additionally, staff requests authorization to make non-substantive revisions necessary to comply with the Texas Register requirements. Thank you. The project managers and attorneys assigned to these chapters are here with us to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Rico. I have none. Any questions, colleagues? All right, seeing none. Ms. Smith, is anybody signed in to speak?
No one is signed in.
Mr. Arthur?
Regarding Chapter 101, with the exception of the obsolete rules, OPIC agrees that the reasons for initially adopting the Chapter 101 rules continue to exist, and we support readoption of the rules. OPIC agrees that the reasons for initially adopting the Chapter 113, 291, and 304 rules also continue to exist, and we support readoption of the rules in each of those chapters.
Thank you, colleagues. I agree with Ms. Rico and Mr. Arthur that we should readopt these rule chapters, and we should initiate rulemaking to clean up Chapter 101.
Likewise, I would move that we adopt the rule reviews and readopt the rules in 30 Texas Administrative Code Chapters 101, 113, 291, and 304 without amendment, and initiate a rulemaking to evaluate the repeal or amendment of sections of Chapter 101 that were identified as potentially obsolete or outdated as recommended by the Executive Director.
I second.
The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Ms. Smith, please call the next item.
Item number 23 is the public comment session. We currently don't have anyone signed in to speak on the public comment session, but we can pause for anyone to come up, and we can ask to have the line unmuted for a moment.
Is there anyone who'd like to address the commission? Oh, I heard something. Is somebody there who would like to comment? I guess not. Ms. Smith, I'll ask you to please call the next items.
Items 24 through 27 are for closed session, and the commission will meet in closed session in room 4222 in building F at, should we say, 10:55? It's 10 minutes. We will do that as permitted by the Open Meetings Act, including Texas Government Code Sections 551.071 and 551.074, to take up and consider matters pursuant to these items numbered 24 through 27, as posted and noticed.
The time is 10:44. We are in recess.
The commission met in room 4222, Building F, for closed session from 10:59 a.m. until 12:19 p.m. on item numbers 24 through 27, as posted in notice pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551074. No action was taken. This agenda stands adjourned, and the time is 12:29.